Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ohad Kadan, Dean of the W.P. Carey School of Business, and I'm excited to be facilitating this Economic Club of Phoenix webinar for the first time. I met some of you last month in the ECP, where we talked about W.P. Carey's new strategic plan and the collaborative vision we are setting for our school. But for those of you who don't already know me, I began my tenure as Dean at W.P. Carey on July 1st of this year, after 20 years at Washington University in St. Louis, all in business school. I'm thrilled to join W.P. Carey and the broader ASU and Arizona communities. I'm especially excited to welcome our keynote speaker today and friend of the school, Xavier Gutierrez of the Arizona Coyotes Hockey Club. A couple of routine housekeeping items to cover before we start. First, all attendees are muted and have video disabled for the remainder of this session. If you have either a technology question or a question for the keynote speaker, please use the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom window. We will save the questions until the end of the session, but you can go ahead and put them in the Q&A box when you are ready. I'm also excited to share some really excellent news for W.P. Carey. Earlier this month, US News and World Report released their latest rankings. W.P. Carey has 10 undergraduate disciplines ranked in the top 20 and overall rankings of 23. In addition, for the 8th year in a row, ASU was named the #1 school for innovation in the country. That's an amazing achievement. I think these rankings tell a really great story about our school and how we imbue access, excellence, and innovation into everything we do. As the largest business school in the nation, we provide expansive access for students across Arizona, the United States, and the world, all while delivering truly exceptional education, as evidenced by the rankings. It is something I'm really proud to be a part of, and I hope you, as part of our larger community, are proud as well. Now, for our keynote speaker. Our special guest today is Xavier Gutierrez. He serves as president, CEO, and alternate governor of the Arizona Coyotes Hockey Club. In this role, Xavier oversees all business operations, strategic planning, significant organizational decision-making, and public affairs for the club. He is the first Latino president and CEO in the history of the National Hockey League. Xavier has 25+ years career as a business executive, investor, and deal maker focused on investment management, corporate strategy and operations, finance, and business development. Previously, he was a managing director at Clear Lake Capital Group. Prior to that, Xavier served as Chief Investment Officer at Meriello Group and President and Chief Investment Officer of Meriello Investment Partners. A dedicated philanthropist and corporate leader, Gutierrez serves on multiple boards and advisory councils. In 2020, Xavier co-founded and currently serves as a board chairman of Summa Wealth, an innovative financial technology company focused on eliminating the Latinx wealth gap by engaging, educating, and empowering this cohort through culturally relevant content, financial tools, and services. Xavier received his Bachelor of Arts cum laude in government from Harvard University and his JD from Stanford Law School. Finally, starting this October, I'm proud to say that Xavier will also be serving as a professor of practice at the W.P. Carey's Department of Finance. Welcome aboard to the W.P. Carey School, Xavier. So please help me welcome Xavier Gutierrez to the Economic Club of Phoenix. Xavier, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dean Kadan. And first and foremost, congratulations to you on your appointment. I know that you will be incredibly successful, continuing the amazing trajectory of ASU and in particular the Carey School. So welcome. You and I have spent some time together. We've come good buddies. And I also want to thank you for the appointment to WP Carey as a professor of practice. I'm very honored. It's been a lifelong goal for me to enter academia. And this is, I guess, the first step to do that. So I appreciate you. And I appreciate everyone being here today for this conversation. I wanted to start off by talking a little bit of why I'm here and how I got here running a hockey team in the NHL. When the reality is I don't know how to skate, and I've never really played hockey. And I come from a long career in banking and investment and private equity. And so I often get asked that question is why I'm here. And it starts with Alex Morello, a trailblazer in his own right, as the first Latino owner in the National Hockey League. He's been a longtime friend, a business partner. We actually own the largest Latino-owned bank in California together. And he bought the team in the summer of 2019, and shortly thereafter called me and he said, listen, I really think that you should do this. And at the time, I was a partner at one of the largest private equity firms in the country, in California, that was actually started by my roommate from Stanford. And I was a little, as you could imagine, incredulous as to why I should actually do this. But Alex, he says, come and see me and I'll tell you why. And basically what he said is like, listen, I want to bring a Stanley Cup to the Valley. I want to win, but I want us to stand for more than winning. And I want us to be a beloved franchise in this community. And really the way to do that is to do for others. And that really resonated with me because as I think back about my own personal journey and my life, the concept of impact, the concept of doing for others has really been a theme throughout it all. Very quickly, I'm an immigrant to this country. I was actually born in Guadalajara, Mexico. I came to the United States when I was 5. My mother overstayed a student visa, so I was an undocumented immigrant. And from there, I'm the oldest of 4. My parents emphasized education. Neither of them had the opportunity to go to higher education, but they emphasized it. And so education has really been a change agent for me and my 3 siblings. My parents have been able to see their children not only go to college and graduate school, but many of us did end up going to Ivy League schools and great academic success. So really that's been a change agent for me. It's been education. But throughout, and going back to my high school, I went to the oldest high school in California, which is an all-boys Jesuit high school. There was this theme about being a man for others. And, I started a career on Wall Street, really to understand how to bring capital into communities like the one that I grew up in, which was a working class part of San Jose, California, now really the heart of Silicon Valley. But when I was growing up, it was orchards and vineyards and pretty agricultural. But it's been this theme throughout. So why am I here? What is the business plan? It really starts with impact, right? I have a quote from Nelson Mandela in my office that says, sports has the power to change the world. We can unite, we can bring joy, we can bring hope, we can really be that force that does for others and leaves a mark, and we can leverage this incredible voice that sports gives us to do for others. And that really is at core of our business plan. It's not ancillary, it's core. And Dean Cadan and I have talked about that is a thing, quite frankly, that I know the Carey School is looking to embrace even further, because that is a trend in all types of industries, is how do you combine financial success or business success or managerial success with something greater, with leaving a impact footprint that is more than just leading your business or leading a team or leading a university or an organization, is thinking broader. The concept of impact leadership that I'm putting a slight plug in, as that's probably going to be the first thing that I help lead at the Carey School as far as a potential course or lecture series. But that's core to who we are, is impact. The second is actually inclusion. And inclusion to us is really two things. How do we bring diverse voices to the seat of decision making? In 2 short years of being in this role, very proud of the fact that we have the largest female front office in the NHL that we've built. I hired actually the first Latina chief operating officer in the history of the NHL. And we launched the first diverse coaches internship program for diverse coaches to come and coach alongside our coaches. And in fact, it led to us hiring one of our first interns, a Black gentleman out of Toronto, who is now a player development coach for us in Canada. And so for us, it's bringing diverse talent that just needs an opportunity to the foreground. The second is also really truly being inclusive of the entire community. So for us, I constantly talk about there are our fans, which we super serve, but then there's also our fans in waiting. And when we think about, what does the fan look like? What does the consumer look like? What does our community look like? We're talking about young, female, diverse, tech savvy, purpose driven, these growth cohorts that we are a bridge to when we're talking about a value proposition to our corporate partners. And then finally, a word that you all know very well at ASU, innovation. And innovation is a core of everything that we think about as well, from the perspective, not so much of just being tech enabled, but also thinking about new ways to solve problems, new ways to go about your business, new ways to have success as a franchise, both on and off the ice. So that's really the business plan. But a key component of our turnaround, which we knew this was going to be, for the Coyotes, is a new facility. So I'll first start by thanking the great folks at ASU. For the next several years, we will be playing at the brand new Mullet Arena there on your campus at ASU there in Tempe. Brand new state-of-the-art facility that we're excited to be a part of. And we've been excited to actually make a significant investment to create an annex and to create upgrades within the arena to bring it to the highest standards in the NHL. It is going to be an energetic, a loud, and very intimate and unique experience, unlike any other that's been ever seen in the NHL. Our first home game is Friday, October 28th. I invite folks to come on down because you will absolutely never forget being in that arena. But with that, we have a bigger focus in mind. I'd like to talk about the Tempe Entertainment District that we proposed to the city of Tempe and are in the course of negotiations with them. This would be the first privately financed sports and entertainment district and facility in the history of Arizona. And we're very proud of it. What I will talk to you about now for the next several minutes is this proposal that we've made. So I'll walk through the project, our community benefits, the deal and the financial benefits, as many people have been curious about what that looks like. I'll kind of touch on a little bit of traffic mitigation because that tends to be a popular topic. And then we'll go through renderings, but really we have a video that speaks better than I could to this project. So next slide. So this is the executive summary. And by the way, this presentation is the one that we not only made to the city of Tempe in early summer that then led to them approving, the city council approving us moving forward to negotiate a potential agreement. But it's also the one that we have been very proud to give to community groups, to residents, to civic leaders, community leaders since that approval. So first and foremost, what is the project? I start by pointing out that the third party that the city hired pointed out that this is the site's highest and best use. It's 46 acres currently owned by the city of Tempe on Priest and Rio Salado along Tempe Town Lake. It is a $2.1 billion project, which would be one of the largest property developments in the history of Arizona. But it's an opportunity to create a landmark out of a landfill. Right now, it is a landfill, and it would entail the removal of 1.5 million tons of trash, so approximately $75 million of remediation. It certainly will be our home. It's a new state-of-the-art, multi-use, multi-sport facility, but I do want to caution, I always tell people, this is not an arena project. This is one of the most transformative, iconic urban redevelopment projects in the country that happens to be anchored by an arena and anchored by a practice facility. As you can see, we'll also be building our practice facility that will be a public amenity. It'll be open to the public, and it will be the headquarters of our youth hockey program. We also envision, I apologize, I come from Los Angeles, so I reference LA quite a bit, but the Rodeo Drive of retail and restaurants for Arizona. It also includes 2 hotels, a 200-key boutique hotel, a 300-key convention-style hotel, a private medical office that we've actually already secured an anchor tenant, an Arizona-based medical company that would like to move their headquarters and 3,000 employees because of the amenities that you have there. But also includes 1,600 plus units. Our vision is to see an urban community in which you can work, live, and play, and be able to be walkable throughout the entire district. And it will also include a more, well, it's known as a flexible banquet style theater to not only be the home of convention gatherings, comedy shows, concerts. So next slide, you'll see the site plan. So up top, that's along Tempe Town Lake. To the west is Priest, and right along the bottom would be Rio Salado. Phase 1 would actually be the westernmost side, which would include, again, our arena that we want it to be a little bit smaller, more intimate. We believe that folks more and more want experiences, they want intimacy, they want to be close to the action. Would be the hotel, the beginning of our retail, the medical office campus, a bit of the retail that we discussed, and then the theater, and then really to the phase 2, which is the easternmost, which currently right now is the city's facilities maintenance yard, and we've allowed them to stay there until the middle of 24 per our proposal. It would really be the residential, another office building, and more of the restaurant retail. Next. So one of the things we're very proud of, besides the fact that we didn't want to have any taxpayer dollar or any taxpayer risk, is all of the significant community benefits that we see this project bringing to Tempe over the next 30 years. And these were all done by one of the leading market feasibility firms in the world that does these types of projects that we hired. Our proposal would generate $13.1 billion in net new spending in Tempe over the next 30 years. It would generate 6,900, almost 7,000 new permanent jobs. And as far as net new taxes, net of the property tax request that we've made, and one of the requests that we've talked about in terms of the tax generation that we've done, net new taxes to the city of Tempe would be $215 million and $10 million of construction permit fees. And really, Maricopa County, as you can see in Arizona, would be significant winners given the sales tax that would be generated. The state of Arizona, we project to generate $1 billion of net new tax revenues from this project. It would also create one of the most iconic landmarks in all of Arizona, attracting almost 3 million annual visitors. For those of you who might not know this, Tempe Town Lake is already behind the Grand Canyon, the second most visited Arizona site with 2.5 million visitors. Many of those we anticipate having overlap, but many will now be new, and in particular, international visitors that we know will be attracted to all of the events, including hockey games. We've proposed city naming rights, free facility usage, and we'd also be willing to pay for all of the additional police and fire safety resources. So all those net new tax revenues would be that. They would be new, and they would not have to be burdened by additional fire and police safety resources. Next. I'll briefly touch on some of these, but I'll start with the innovation partnership with ASU. We've already begun a partnership with several centers at ASU. We know that ASU and Tempe is really the heart of the innovation economy for the state, and we want to be a part of it. So we have proposed a $7 million contribution over the course of the next 30 years with free office space to support many of those startups, many of those entrepreneurs, many of those businesses that would like to be part of the Tempe community and of the ASU community. Public art, public school contributions, a new police substation, contribution of about $2 million as part of our proposal for the coalition, the Tempe Coalition for Affordable Housing, an innovation around inclusive areas for children and persons of different disabilities and abilities. As I mentioned earlier, our practice facility would be open to the public when we do not have practice there, which we think will again help enhance that live, work, play feeling of the entire district. An innovative approach to public transportation in which the arena tickets for any event of 10,000 people or more would actually serve as your light rail pass. That's a way of many that we're proposing to try to encourage public transportation. And then obviously, you know, the continuation of bringing Class A tenants to not only the entertainment district, but to Tempe and bringing those jobs along with it. Next. So let's talk about the deal, because I know there's many folks that are on this that are interested in that. We try to, as complicated and large as the project is, we try to simplify things. So the deal really is us paying for the land that the city owns, so 46 acres, the market rate of $48 million or $25 a square foot, which we got from a comparable to a project that was literally right next to this site. We would then remediate the land. We would have a third party, not the city, issue tax exempt bonds. We would build upon it, and then we would convey the entire land and its private development to the city for the property tax abatement, or the GPLITs as they're called. This proposal ensures there's no risk. Not only is there no dollars being put in by the city of Tempe or any government entity, but there's no tax burden either. Those bonds, which I'll walk through them, are non-rated, they're non-government backed bonds. The sole collateral is the land and the private real estate that we would own and that we would build. Next slide. So what are the requests, the financial requests that we're making of the city? They're really four. It's really three, but we'll get into that. One, sell us the 46 acres of contaminated land. Sadly, I think many of you know, a couple of months ago, that piece of property also had a spontaneous combustion of fire. So it gives you a sense of the contamination of that site. Second is to create a community facilities district, which is already a district that the city of Tempe has utilized and created. Third is to contribute a portion of the new taxes that our private real estate will create. And so to contribute a portion of them to those bonds to pay the remediation and the infrastructure, but they're assessment bonds. And so at the end of the day, we guarantee those bonds, because if there was, it's an assessment on our real estate, on our land, very similar to property tax assessment when you own a home. Those are assessments on your property that you ultimately have to guarantee. And then finally, request for property tax abatement we'll walk through the arena, the theater, the practice facility for 30 years, and then 8 years for the other uses. And we'll talk about those and how they stack up to other facilities around Arizona. Next slide. So this is just a summary of what I just went through. Next slide. So this is a visual just to get a sense of the net new taxes to Tempe and how we've proposed it. So it's really three revenue sources of taxes to the city: sales tax, hotel bed tax, and property taxes. In the end, what we've proposed is those three line items will generate $430 million over the next 30 years. We've proposed to split them 50%, or $215 million approximately, will go to the city of Tempe for them to pay other indebtedness, for them to potentially bond out for uses like potentially a housing bond, whatever the city believes they should want to do with that. So approximately $7 million a year to the city. The other 7 million, we're asking for that to be contributed to the remediation and the public infrastructure costs. So now I remind people when they ask, well, why is that? Ultimately, this is land that the city currently owns. Our original request to them was, you own this land, why don't you clean it and put infrastructure on it and then sell it to us and tell us what that cost looks like. And the city's request to us was, well, we don't want to put out any money and we don't want to bond against it. So we came up with an ingenious way to have them have remediated land, infrastructure costs. None of this ever goes into our pocket. It goes into addressing the infrastructure and the remediation needs of city-owned land without asking the city to put any money for it, without asking the taxpayers to guarantee it. We think this is an innovative approach to address all that. And again, the goal was to not put taxpayers at risk and not ask the city for a dollar. Next slide. This is the bond structure. So we've secured the Wisconsin Public Finance Authority as the bond issuer. So in essence, they would issue bonds for about $200 million. I said 215 million, 220 million into the newly formed CFD. The key here is that the city of Tempe does not issue these bonds. They are not guaranteed by the city at all. They carry no financial risk to Tempe or the Tempeyers. And the development generates revenue starting day one because of all the construction permitting. We will also, if you see, what are the payment sources of those bonds? One, as we've asked, the city's contributed on-site new taxes, a surcharge that we would impose on economic activity, approximately 2.5% onto that district. And then again, there's an assessment lien to guarantee any shortfalls, and that assessment lien is on our property, on our real estate. So ultimately, we would be guaranteeing any shortfalls of that. This again is why we feel very confident that it is a fantastic deal that puts no risk onto the city's taxpayers. Next slide. So how do we compare to other sports and entertainment venues? So first, as you can see, we would only be using taxes generated on site, number one, and number two, because they're not government guaranteed, they're not rated. So we have already assumed that they would be at a higher cost of capital. By comparison, State Farm Stadium, the tax contribution is state and countywide taxes. So as I point out, if you have a transaction anywhere in the state of Arizona or Maricopa County, you buy a pizza, you buy a t-shirt, you buy a program, all of those will go into payment of those bonds. And as a result, they're also publicly backed and government backed. And so they are investment grade. Same thing with Footprint Arena. Anywhere in the city of Phoenix, if you do a transaction, you are helping pay back the bonds for Footprint. Across Maricopa County, the bonds for Chase Field, and across Glendale, again, if you buy a t-shirt anywhere in the city of Glendale, you're helping pay back the bonds for Gila River. We wanted to do something different. We only wanted taxes generated on site, on private development, and we never wanted to ask the taxpayers for a guarantee or for a repayment. Next. So people have also asked us about the property tax abatement, right? Why are you asking for so long? So again, we're asking for 30 years for our arena, our practice facility, and our theater, the entertainment. By comparison, State Farm, Chase Field, Footprint, Gila River, Veterans Memorial, even Sun Devil Stadium, they never pay property taxes in perpetuity. We believe that what we've always said, don't treat us better than anybody, but also don't treat us worse. We think this is an appropriate request for property tax abatement to put us onto the same level playing field as every other sports and entertainment venue in Arizona. Next. We've also asked for 8 years for the other uses, the hotels, the residential, the retail. And along Tempe Town Lake, the city has approved approximately 34 other of these property tax and even Jeeplets. So for 8 years, right? The South Pier, the IDEA campus, the Hilton Canopy downtown, Jefferson Town Lake, Residence Inn, the Salt, the Tempe Marketplace, the Rio 2100 project have all received these 8 years. Again, we have assumed all this property tax abatement and still would generate $7 million a year in net new taxes for the city and $7 million to pay down infrastructure and remediation on city-owned landfill property. We think it's an appropriate request. And again, we feel that that is what would make this financially viable for us to put up, and not only our equity, but also to guarantee the financing of $2.1 billion for this district. Next slide. I'll touch shortly just on traffic mitigation. I know I'm going on and I'd like to have time for questions, but as you can tell, and we've always been very transparent in all of our conversations, there will be an enhanced traffic. We're not going to eliminate it, but we're going to try to manage it and mitigate it. And what you're talking about in Tempe, right down the street from us, a mile and a half away, you have a city that has 60,000 plus fans come for a football game and gets them out relatively quickly. You have 5 freeways located within 4 miles. This is the best location, given its the location next to freeways, not necessarily bothering the rest and imposing upon the rest of the communities across Tempe, where there's also significant amount of parking, approximately 8,000 stalls on both on site and within 1 mile, given all the office development that's happened there, that we would do parking guarantees and parking arrangements with. We're also looking at free shuttles to the transit stops, a partnership with Orbit, which the city of Tempe's shuttle service to and from downtown Tempe. We are going to grant an easement for the extension of the streetcar. So again, we would like to hear more of ideas, but we think what we've proposed helps mitigate the traffic that we know will be there. Next. So that's it. And rather than me kind of walking through some of these renderings that many of you may have seen already, I know we have a video that our architects put together that we revealed at the public hearing. I think that's probably the best, rather than me walking and talking through it. So if we can show the video, that would be fantastic. So I will leave it by pointing out that we are very proud of this. We're very proud of it as a project, as a proposal, as a deal, as a transaction. And we believe that we are absolutely the right ownership group to get this done. We have the track record, the resources, and the commitment to create this transformative and iconic project. I will only point out one thing. Many of you might have caught, we endeavor to bring the very first video board ceiling to any arena in the world. That you've never seen that ever happen anywhere in any other facility. We think that will be the beginning of an immersive experience that who knows where AR or VR will be going forward, but we are getting ready for that. So with that, Dean Kadan, I don't know if you want to lead the way on questions.
Thank you, Javier. This was a wonderful presentation. What an ambitious project that you're running. So basically, you are running a team and this kind of project. It sounds like two jobs to me.
Oh, no, I have many Uber side hustles. We've talked about that. Now I'm a professor too. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, a full-time, yeah, a day job and an evening job. Okay, so we have several questions. First, can you describe the relationship between the Latino community and hockey? And what's your view about this?
No, it's a very good question. And in fact, I just presented at a big conference in California called Latitude, which was a major gathering around the impact of Latinos on the US economy. The reality is it's a sport that hasn't been a big part of the Latino community. But we hope to change that. And we have seen other franchises. I come from California. The Sharks come to San Jose and they make that a hockey town in part by its embrace of its diverse multicultural community. The LA Kings, the Anaheim Ducks, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Chicago Blackhawks, the New York Rangers. There's a number of teams that have really leaned into the Latino cohort. And this is what I say. You're talking about being in Maricopa County, which is 43% Latino. When you look at young people ages 8 to 13, which is research shows that's when fandom is created for sports, almost 3 out of every 5 of those kids is Latino. For me and for us, it is a core part of our fans in waiting. It is up to us to extend our hand, open our doors, and do it in a very different way. I've said this in a couple of settings and people kind of look at me crazy. I would love to create hockey fans, but I'm really interested in creating Coyote fans. And Coyote fans might be interested in us because of our content, our merchandise, the great experience they can have, or the fact that we're willing to go and welcome them and say, you are a part of everything we think about. It's being in places that we've never been before. It's focusing on an audience we never have before. So for us, it is the right thing to do, but it's the right decision to make. You know, as well as being the first Latino in this role in the history of the NHL, I'm also the first private equity executive to ever run a team. And so I think about things as business opportunities. Growth cohorts are absolutely a business opportunity. The Latino market in Arizona, in Maricopa County, is absolutely the growth cohort, and we are leaning into them and welcoming them as core to our business plan.
Thank you. A follow-up question to that is, what are you doing to promote hockey among youth in Arizona? It's more generally the hockey culture here in Arizona.
Sure. Well, like I said, you know, young people, they get attracted to things across many platforms, right? We're leaning into content. You know, one of the conversations we're actually having with ASU and the Cronkite School is of creating some sort of content collaboration, specifically targeting young people. But what are we doing? We're looking at our social media, our content strategy, our merchandising, and really making it youthful, but also being out. You know, one of the things that I was not aware of was just what a vibrant youth hockey community you have here in Arizona. Now, it shouldn't surprise me when you understand that, one, this is the second largest Canadian snowbird market in America, next to Florida. And two, it's one of the leading locations for retired NHL players or those who make this their off-season home. And we have a particular story that resonates with that. Shane Doan, Captain Coyote, the only man to have his number retired up on our rafters, comes from Canada, plays here for 20 plus years. And then his son, Josh Doan, goes to ASU, becomes a co-captain of the hockey team, but gets drafted by the Coyotes. To us, that is what we're doing. That is how we're leaning in, and we want to do even more.
That's great. Here's an interesting question. If it is not rude to ask, what was the main reason to not continue on the Gila River Arena?
No, it's definitely not. Truth be told, we tried. Before we owned the team, there was a long-term lease that the city of Glendale decided to put into a year-to-year lease. When Alex Morello bought the team, he approached the city and asked for a 7-year extension. The city wanted a much longer one. I asked for a 5-year when I joined a year later. The city wanted a longer one, and then made a decision to terminate our lease. So it really was not our decision. Now, I will like to point out that it created this great opportunity. We are committed to the Valley, so much so, and I tip my hat to him, that Alex Morello will invest over $30 million in a temporary solution on the campus at ASU, including also purchasing and building out a players training facility in Scottsdale, building out our practice facility operations and locker rooms at the ice stand in Scottsdale, and then clearly the annex that we are building next to Mullet Arena. So for us, we see this as an opportunity to show folks that we are committed, we have the resources, and we're willing to deploy them with the greater focus in mind of a permanent facility that we just walked through.
Thank you. Next question. What are your plans for promoting local engagement with the team? More specifically, how are you looking at to attract folks coming to the game with the current ticket prices? So just talk a bit about the affordability of the prices.
Sure. So the first thing I point out is the fact that Mullet Arena, every seat is a premium seat. You were talking about the lowest half of the lower bowl to come and watch NHL games. One of the things that was a challenge in our previous location is ticket prices were well below the NHL average. However, people were still paying NHL level pricing around the premium. So when you're talking about glass seat, center ice seats, being the closest that you can be to the NHL action, that is exactly the price points that we're looking at. And in fact, when you look at those premium seats, relative to Vegas, relative to Los Angeles, relative to Colorado, relative to the geographies in which we're in, we're actually at or below those price points. What I think people are trying to understand is why such an increase from where we were. Number one, we were below the NHL average. Number two, every seat is a premium seat. In fact, our concern is that we may be too close. Our club seats will be the closest ever to an NHL game, and pucks are going to be flying in while people are enjoying adult beverages. And so we're a little concerned about that. The second thing I'll point out, however, is that we have been very mindful to make sure that we do allow fans that have never experienced, in particular students. I've made this public that we'll have approximately 400 student tickets priced between $25 and $40 for every single game. And so that's something that we want to attract and allow. We will also, went out with various ticket packages to try to ensure that as many new fans that are now in a location that we haven't been in a very, very, very long time are able to enjoy and be a part of everything that we're doing.
That's great. I'm sure our students will be happy
to
learn that. The project is very impressive, and thanks for sharing the proposal. What is your sustainable focus on this plan? ASU has strong commitment to sustainable development and goals. How will this Tempe project be compliant with that?
Yes, so now as we're starting to get into more of the design build component, a lot of renewable energy, a lot of sustainability aspects are now being built out. Our hope is clearly to have a LEED certification that's appropriate not only for the arena, but for the entire district. So that's almost table stakes. But given the renewable energy technology that exists out there, it's something that we are absolutely leaning into. We've actually had several conversations with folks at ASU to help give us some of the best practices, as well as with both SRP and APS. We're a unique project in that we will actually deal with those two utilities for energy and for reclamation, for cleanable, for renewable energy. So those are absolutely things that we are building out. It's top of mind. It is a core part of what not only we are interested in doing, but also our partners, our corporate partners are seeking to want to be aligned and engaged with us as a physical space that is mindful of sustainability.
Great. A quick follow-up question on that. Did you have any thoughts about water usage in that project?
Yeah, the thoughts are that we have to have it be top of mind, and we have to actually make sure that it, as with any business, you know, this one obviously being unique, that it does rely on water for the ice, that it is very, very core to our sustainability plan and to our renewable energy plan. It is not just the water, but it's actually the cooling of the water and a constant. We will anticipate having 3 sheets of ice. So 2 in our practice facility, obviously 1 in the arena. So it is absolutely mindful, not just as the right thing to do, but from a business operations cost perspective, it's something that we have to be very innovative and top of mind on.
Interesting. Question the following: what is the biggest challenge so far you have faced with this project, and what is the biggest challenge you anticipate down the road?
Sure. I think the biggest challenge with the project is that it's never been done before, that you have a privately financed district and entertainment and sports facility. So explaining that and making sure people understand that's exactly what we mean. You know, it's a lot of conversations to walk through how bonds work, how the cash flow works, how the project works. So it's really just getting out there and kind of addressing a lot of misinformation, a lot of wrong information, a lot of miscommunication. So that's been the biggest challenge to get it out there. But listen, we're excited. We were very honored that the city in June 2nd, actually the council approved us moving forward to negotiate. We feel very confident it's the right project, the right deal, or the right people to get this done. And we anticipate positive, you know, momentum going forward and some sort of approval in the next, you know, several months.
Great. So we have a question here from a student.
Great.
For MBA students aspiring to follow your footsteps, would you be willing to be a guest speaker in some finance and entrepreneurship classes to help explain how you determine the financing needs and more generally just talk about your career?
Absolutely. You know this, Dean Kadan, that I love talking in particular to young people and offering my advice, my insight, my thoughts, not only on the substantive matters of, you know, public financing, real estate development, investment management. As you know, in my career, I've not only run and started a real estate private equity firm, but also a traditional, more generalist corporate private equity firm, commercial private equity firm. So I'm always happy to talk to young people and give them some insight. I feel that there have been so many door openers in my life that I, you know, really forced me to walk through a door I was never aware of, but it ends up that's exactly where I should be, like being here, that I'd like to be able to help others realize not only their dreams, but their American dream as an immigrant to this country. I feel very much of a responsibility to make that happen. So absolutely be happy to do it anytime.
Thank you so much. A few more questions. I mean, they're coming. The questions are coming. So did you experience any skepticism when you pitched your ideas initially, when you started your career or your current role? And how did you overcome that?
Yeah. There's been a lot of skepticism in this role. I think in large part because there's been a 20+ year career, quite frankly, that's been very challenged for this organization, right? There's been a lot of instability and dysfunction. I think for the first entire year of my tenure here, I was asked every single day if the Coyotes were leaving Arizona and where were they moving to. And in fact, many Canadians actually were asking me, why haven't we moved already? And so there's been a lot of just undoing of what has happened historically. And I always start by why I'm here, right? I'm here because of the fact that sports can really, truly make a difference. This is the place we want to make a difference. This is the community we want to make an impact. And so that's how I've addressed it. I've constantly focused on not only our business plan and Alex Morello's vision, but my own personal goals in taking on this role. And when you do that, you realize that there may be challenges, but there's a reason why we're here. There's a reason that we're trying to push forward. Doesn't mean we always make the right decision. We make mistakes. We're not angels. We own up to them, and I certainly own up to them on behalf of the organization. But we think we are doing this for the right reason. We have a plan in mind, and we think that will be a core part of why we have success.
Got it. The next question is about the team. What are your plans to invest in the hockey team itself? Are you planning to build a playoff level contender?
Without a doubt. I mean, our goal was to build a sustainable winner. And it goes back to, we hired a general manager who actually won a Stanley Cup in St. Louis, where you came from, right, with the Blues, and was there for 13 years and built a sustainable winner. Now, how did they go about doing that? It was through the draft. They built a foundation through the draft, and that does take time. And that does take an approach of having to have patience in order to bring on talent, develop them, give them the best technologies, the best tools. I didn't realize there was such a thing as sleep science for sports performance before I got here. And yet we've invested heavily in nutrition, in data analysis, in sleep science, in sports performance. So for us, we are absolutely focused on building a sustainable winner. It's pretty evident the way what we've done it. We have built through the draft last year. We had 3 first-round picks. We had the most number of first and second round picks in the history of the NHL. We will continue to do that for the next several years. And so for us, the foundation is built through young people, acquiring the ability to bring them into the fold, selecting them, developing them, and putting this organization on a path to be a sustainable winner year in and year out.
That's great. Yeah, the Blues are a great team, but I'm willing to change my loyalty to the Coyotes.
Oh, what do you mean? You already did. Come
I
on.
already did. Okay. How are you responding to Sky Harbor's concerns about the TED's proximity to the flight path?
Sure. Well, this has been a sort of topic of conversation since we proposed this at our public hearing. We made it very clear. First, our proposal absolutely has uses that are allowable and permissible. Second, our proposal is well within the rubric of what is known as the intergovernmental agreement between the city of Phoenix and the city of Tempe. We showed on numerous occasions that the distance, the height, and the uses are all well within what is allowable. And in fact, in a very public setting, which is our public hearing, we pointed out that the airport's constant focus on a number of issues, whether they be cranes that they said would be up for 10 years. And we pointed out that there's cranes literally out there right now on the corner of Priest and Rio Salado that are 20 feet higher than anything that we would propose. You have Chase Field, which is actually closer, and at 265 feet, our highest height would be 120 feet along the same, flight path. You have by right development in the warehouse district in Phoenix of 185 feet of residential. Again, our highest height will be 120 feet. So on a number of occasions, we have shown you can do this. Now, as far as the residential we're going to build, you need to have sound mitigation and attenuation, which we will be doing. Just like there's 4,000 units along Tempe Town Lake that have been built since that IGA was created with the similar sound and noise mitigation. We feel very confidently that we are well within our ability to do this. We're also very confident that when we submit our application to the FAA is ultimately concerned with the safety and soundness of the airports. And we have no doubt that our application will be approved. By the way, again, I just came from LA. SoFi Stadium, which will be the host of the World Cup, the Olympics, and just hosted the Super Bowl, is actually less than a mile away from the end of LAX, has 30,000 people living between it and the runway at LAX, and the FAA approved that. So we feel quite confident that there will be no problems with our project.
Okay, this was the last question we can accommodate,
Sure.
Given our time constraints. So Javier, thanks so much for being here and sharing this really exciting project and your vision for impact leadership with us. It's a real pleasure to have you. Please mark your calendars for our next ECP virtual event. We will host our 2022 Spirit of Enterprise Award winner, Aaron Matos, the founder and CEO of Paradox. The webinar will take place on Tuesday, October 25th via Zoom. We encourage you to join us. The registration for this event, as well as the remaining webinars for this semester, can be found on the ECP webpage. Thank you again for attending today's session. You helped to make the ECP the premier business speaker series in the Valley. See you next month.